the famous Bosphorus Bridge behind me. The bridge that connects Europe to Asia, and that's the Bosphorus Strait. Now this place usually is crowded. It's packed with tourists from Europe, Asia, and perhaps across the world. But right now, it's not just the sky that's overcast. People here are depressed. After all, more than 37,000 people have lost their lives in this devastating earthquake. But while there is gloom, while there's despair, there are also stories of hope. Like this 77-year-old man who was rescued after being buried for more than 212 hours in the rubble. It's the army that had a special team, and several such teams have been deployed across the southern and central part of Turkey. They successfully rescued him. He's again been taken to hospital. But there's also another apprehension. The fear of PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Not just for those who were buried under the rubble, not just for those impacted by the earthquake, but also those who were engaged in the task of rescuing people.
It's been more than a week, but rescue efforts continue in quake-hit Turkey. From under the rubble in Adıyaman, a 77-year-old woman was rescued 212 hours after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck Turkey and Syria. Fatma Gungor had been under the wreckage when the rescue team pulled her out. This 42-year-old woman was rescued 222 hours after being buried in the rubble of a building that collapsed in a devastating earthquake in Kahramanmaraş. After 203 hours, this woman was rescued from the rubble of a building in the southern Turkish city of Hatay. International rescue teams along with locals have not given up hope, and they are still on their toes to rescue every life from under the rubble.
We arrived here in Hatay on Saturday, and since then we have not stopped seeing how there are people who are being rescued alive every day. So we think there's still a chance there are people below the rubble, and we should keep looking.
Not only human life, even pets are precious, like this furry best friend of a family that lost its home in the earthquake. The combined death toll in Turkey and Syria has crossed 41,000. UN authorities have said the focus of the aid effort has now shifted to helping people struggling without shelter or enough food in the bitter cold. But rescuers are still pulling survivors out more than a week after the quake hit. Bureau Report, India Today.
Be it a 65-year-old man, a 2-year-old child, or this 13-year-old teenager rescued in Hatay, each story is that of sheer grit, determination, and the will to survive against all odds. According to emergency rescue workers, this 13-year-old teenager was actually smiling when health workers reached him. And they asked him, he had no hope, he had no food, no water, but what made him go on? He said he knew he would be taken out, he would survive, because he has something to look forward to. We tell you more in this report.
Amid death, disaster and despair, and race to save lives from under massive piles of rubble, tales of miracle rescue, survival and hope. A 2-month-old baby was rescued from under the rubble in Turkey's Hatay on Saturday. The toddler remained buried under the massive chunks of concrete for 128 hours after the killer quake. After desperate search for survivors, rescue workers traced the baby and painstakingly brought the child out alive. As onlookers clapped, cheered and shed tears of joy. Over life triumphing over death, the baby was immediately taken to the hospital for medical checks.
Ne tatlısın. He? Geleceksin yanıma. Geleceksin yanıma. Gel.
A 9-year-old boy was pulled out alive from the ruins of a collapsed building in Turkey's Gaziantep nearly a week after the quake. Jubilant rescue workers whisking him away on a stretcher for treatment. Amidst the devastation, rescue teams from India and across the world continue to save as many lives as possible before it's too late. Earlier, a 19-year-old woman was rescued after spending over 120 hours under the rubble in Kahramanmaras. The woman was heard shouting, "I'm alive," when search teams managed to locate her. She was surrounded by rescuers before being taken to hospital on a stretcher. In another miracle rescue, a Spanish team dug out a 50-year-old woman who had been under the rubble of a collapsed building for over 144 hours. Thousands of rescue workers are scouring through flattened neighborhoods despite freezing weather. And tales of survival come as major morale boosters for these saviors. Bureau Report, India Today.